Thanks for tuning into our seller interview series. Well, today we've got a 3-site package of e-commerce and dropshipping businesses for sale in the sports and outdoors niche. Created in February 2007, this business makes $21,812 per month in net profit, and the listing number for this business is 40936. Now, we do these interviews to give potential buyers more information about both the seller and the businesses they're looking to purchase. We hope these insights are helpful for you in making a buying decision. We've got the seller with us today to go through the business and cover everything from niche selection to traffic and monetization. Thanks for coming on, Ahmed.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Before we dive into all the questions here, just to give a quick summary again for everyone out there listening in. As I mentioned, this was built in February 2007, has a monthly revenue of $51,214, with expenses sitting at $29,403, or that total net profit of $21,812. Now that is over a 12-month average, and included with the sale of the business is the site transfer process. Obviously include the domain, all the logins for the site, the software pertaining to the site and the inventory, as well as a large email list of over 25,000 subscribers. So that being said, Ahmed, can you tell us a little bit about your background in building and running online businesses? Is this kind of one of your first ones, or is this just one of many that you've been running?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. So I have actually, for the past couple of years, I initially started by building out web businesses. I started with building out a few e-commerce sites, a few small software sites. And what I would typically do is I really enjoyed the part of taking it from just an idea to actually getting my first few customers. And then I would sometimes prematurely sell those sites just because I enjoyed that part of starting the business. But then when I got more into it and I started looking more into Empire Flippers, I got really intrigued by the idea of actually buying a website that had already been to some level established and then working to fix any operations issue or just growing that site. And that was really our goal with this business, was to purchase the business because we saw a lot of potential with and continue to see potential with it. But there were a lot of issues with it early on when we bought it that were one of the reasons we bought this business, was to go in there and fix those operational issues. And, at this point, I think we've done a fairly good job of eliminating, almost all, if not all of those issues. And so at this point, the business is, doing really well in terms of having a smooth flow of operations, but it could really benefit from someone who's kind of willing to take it to the next level in terms of revenue and growth.
So you actually purchased this business. Was it off of the EF platform or?
Yeah, so this business, we did purchase this business, and it wasn't off the EF platform. It was private sale.
Very cool, man. That's awesome. I always love to hear about people who purchase these businesses and then build them up and sell them. It's really exciting. It's really, very, very cool. For someone that is looking at this business and maybe they don't fully understand how dropshipping and e-commerce works, maybe they're still kind of new to online business as well, and they're looking at this as kind of their first big acquisition. Could you just briefly describe how this business is making money?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's really just the traditional e-commerce model where we generate revenue and make money through the sale of products, and obviously our difference on what we buy it for versus what we sell it for. Now, we do use both drop shipping and light bulk inventory. So what that means is for a lot of our products, we drop ship, meaning we get an order from one of our customers and then we forward that order to one of our suppliers and they ship it directly to the customer. That's probably about 15 to 20% of our business. And then the remaining 80% is where we get an order, a bulk of it from our supplier. For example, we get 5 orders within the span of a couple of hours, or 20 orders within the span of a day or two. And so we order all of that from our supplier. It comes to us and then we repack it and ship it. And we do have, 2 employees right now that can take care of all of that in terms of fulfillment and customer support, but I'm sure we'll get more into that later.
Yeah, for sure. And now it sounds like you've taken this business and seems like you have scaled it, fixed some of the operational errors, maybe just improved upon old operations and maybe the marketing as well, which we'll definitely get into. But with that said, this business makes pretty good monthly income. So why are you selling the business? Why not just keep it and keep growing it?
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. I mean, and we get that a lot. And the reason is because for me personally, by profession. I'm a software developer, and at this point I'm more interested in kind of investing in some new projects, investing in some software based projects, but also I have a few other software development work, pieces in the work, and I'd really like to kind of invest time and money into those. And I think more realistically speaking too, it's important for us to realize, and for me to realize what I'm good at, and that has been kind of fixing these operational issues, taking this from a lifestyle business kind of just ran by one owner to more of a streamlined and scalable business. And that's something that myself and my team have been good at. But, it's also important for us to recognize some of our weaknesses, which is just kind of growing the business in terms of using social media or AdWords or paid ads and other creative means to grow the business. That's something we don't really excel at, but we're good at fixing businesses. So, I think at this point we've kind of done what we're good at, and it's probably best to, sell the business and let the new owner do hopefully what they're good at to continue the trajectory of the business.
That is a great reason to sell. And in terms of when you did purchase the business, just out of curiosity, if you don't have it right in front of you or anything like that, that's totally fine. But when you did buy this business, how was it doing? Like, where was it when you bought it versus where it is today?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, in terms of how the business was doing, I would say it was doing pretty similar in number. This is a very, well-established business. It's been around for the past 10 plus years. So, but our reason for buying wasn't necessarily to increase revenue, kind of like I alluded to, where we didn't necessarily come in saying we would do really great with increasing the revenue and be able to do that. But what we came in with the mindset was that this is a really great business with a lot of potential, but it's run really poorly when we bought it. And so we came in and we said, well, if we can take some of these processes and we can streamline it and we can make this a more scalable and more manageable business for someone outside of the initial owner, how would we do that? And so we came in and, over the past year or so, that's exactly what we've aimed to do. So I guess in short, the revenue wasn't too different, but the operations were, an entirely different ballgame.
So let's get into that for a few minutes here. When you first bought the business, what was the trajectory of that like? Like, what kind of organizational tweaks were you making? What was the vision as you bought this business? Like the things you saw that you could do. What did that look like?
Absolutely. So, to give it in a more broader term, basically, when we bought the business, we saw that this was a lifestyle business ran by one owner, who had just gotten so accustomed to the way, he did things. And, we saw that as an opportunity to take it from that to more of not only like a portfolio business, but a business that someone outside of this niche, outside of this industry, like us, could actually manage on a day-to-day basis. More specifically, so some of the things we did, for example, one of the big issues we had with the site early on, or with the businesses early on, was the inventory on the site. The SKUs listed on the sites weren't being properly managed. And what I mean by that is the previous owner would continue to add SKUs over the past like 9 years before that, but they were never, the SKUs that were now out of stock, those SKUs that were now discontinued, they were never actually removed out of the site. There was no process in place to do that. And, when we bought the business, we realized that would be an issue. We didn't think it would be a nightmare. And so it ended up being a nightmare early on. That was what we knew we were kind of getting ourselves into, at least to some degree. But that was one of the main things we fixed. And boy, that was the root of all like problems in this business, was that inventory issue. Because, it might not sound huge, but when you have people, purchasing products, and then you have to go back and tell them, hey, the product you purchased is out of stock or back ordered or discontinued. Would you like to purchase another product? It's like to have to be able to do that so many times. It's just complete nightmare. And, obviously people get upset because some of them were ordering to get it in the next couple of days, and now it's the next couple of days and they're just being told that their product's out of stock. It would significantly raise customer support time. That was one of the big issues we faced early on. And, we were able, through a lot of hassle initially, a few different things, we were able to really fix that. We have an incredibly efficient process in place right now, make sure we update that inventory. And it doesn't take a long time at all, but, it took time to get to that place. But now that we are there, thankfully, those problems are now eliminated and we don't run into that anymore.
That's awesome. So it sounds like original owner he was a one-man team, kind of doing it himself. Sounds like he's just a bit over his head with those SKUs, which I can only imagine what a nightmare that must have been. But did you also create a team with business as well? It sounds like you kind of made it, as you said, a streamlined machine just working now. At least that's certainly what it sounds like.
Exactly. Yeah. And that was our goal. So it wasn't just about fixing those broken processes, but it was also about implementing the right people. The two core components of the business, I would say, are operations in terms of fulfillment and customer support. And we have two different employees who basically handle those two main components of the business, which constitute of, 99% of the day-to-day operations, because people place orders on the website, those orders need to be fulfilled, and then people have questions and those questions need to be answered. And so we have two employees who handle all of that for us on a day-to-day basis, and they're also obviously going to be transferred over with the sale should the new owner, wish to have them along. But we've already obviously spoken to them, and they're more than happy to come on board with the new owner. But that was kind of, our second step in terms of streamlining the process, because, having those people there and having those day-to-day operations covered by them, or allows the new owner really to focus more on growth and really taking this business to the next level. Or if they wish, then keeping it where it is and just harvesting profit from the existing sources.
Absolutely. I always tell sellers the more you can make the business plug and play, the more attractive it's going to be for those exact reasons, especially if someone's coming in and they have one specific really good marketing talent, they want to buy a machine already well oiled, right? With that said, is there anything, what is like, one thing you learned from this business that you're going to apply to your future sites or future businesses, or is there anything that just stands out for you that just really worked well for you?
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the things I'll definitely learn is before, and not necessarily before buying an e-commerce site, but I think one thing I learned is, having a lot of SKUs is great, but, making sure those SKUs are properly managed is even more important. And, thankfully we're doing a great job of that now. And then one more thing was about kind of setting customer expectations. And what I mean by that is, in the ever so evolving world of Amazon, I think it's almost become a norm for some customers to receive products, within 2 to 3 days. And while that's certainly true for a lot of the products on our site, it's also not true for some of them. And that was another small issue we faced early on. And so what I really learned was managing customer expectations. And so the way we went about fixing that, which has worked really well, is we started flagging some of the products on our site, and they would say, available to ship in 2 to 3 days, or fast shipping available. And so customers would know that if the product is flagged with these terms, then they know they'll receive it in 2 to 3 days, or they'll receive it a lot more quickly than with another product that might take a week to get to them.
Managing customer expectations is huge, and it's something that people don't really think about, which is strange to me because it's just there's so many different other marketing things for them to worry about. That's something that often slips through the cracks, but it's often the easiest in some senses, and definitely very effective to cut customer complaints and things like that. So definitely a good lesson. Is there anything on the flip side here that didn't work for you?
Yeah, I think it was just as we were working toward, what I was talking about in terms of the SKU management, we used a few, I guess in the broader scheme of things, I learned just because someone offers an expensive enterprise software to help you fix some issue doesn't necessarily mean that software is good. And I guess to dive more deeper into that, before we had tried out this inventory management software to get rid of those old SKUs and to, keep it updated on a daily basis. And, they seemed like, answered all our prayers at that time, because they seemed to do exactly what we needed to be done. And thankfully, they gave us some free trial period to try it out. But in theory, it looked like a great software. But when we actually integrated it into our stores, that didn't work out at all as what we expected. And so, we really ended up doing is kind of what we have as our system today, which really just comes down a 15 to 20 minute a week process. Just make sure that those SKUs are updated through little software we created internally through Excel. And that has just done wonders for us. And not to mention, it's completely free.
Sometimes the most elegant solution is the simple one, right?
Exactly.
Speaking of SKUs, I did mention at the top that this is also drop shipping. So is a large portion of your products actually sourced by you, or is it mainly drop shipping? What's the ratio there?
Yeah, so right now I would say about 15 to 20% is drop shipping. So one of the three sites are actually completely drop shipped. And so a lot of our current SKUs are drop shipped, but a lot of them are sourced, get them, and then we'll repackage them, or our employee will repackage them and send it out. But if someone wanted to make this a more drop ship intensive business, that's very possible. I think to the extent that someone wanted to, they could probably make this into a 95% dropship business already today. Actually, more so 80 to 85%. And there's only one supplier that doesn't do drop shipping that we have. But at the end of the day, if someone was really determined to make this a 100% dropship business, I think that's most of our suppliers are very flexible with us and they're willing to work with us just because of how long the business has been around and the sheer volume of business we do with them. So that's kind of what it is now. But if someone wanted to make it more so toward fully drop shipped business, that could happen too. If someone wanted to focus more on doing more inventory instead, that's also a possibility.
Have you ever thought about, for one, I think that's really cool that the suppliers, the people who are open to drop shipping, they're your current suppliers as well. Is that correct? Or your source products?
Exactly. Yes.
Nice. I think that's really cool that they have that flexibility with drop shipping. Definitely a bonus point in case someone starts running out of product. Maybe that could be like a backup in case of a very high season or something like that. But my other question, since you are sourcing the majority of your products from the sounds of it, have you ever thought about putting them up on Amazon as like a Amazon FBA product as well? Have you ever thought about doing something like that?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. So, very recently, and when I say that, I mean probably like 2, 3 weeks ago, we listed a couple of products on eBay and they've done fairly well. We've already sold a few on there, gotten some good seller feedback. And to be completely frank, the reason we haven't done more on that or Amazon FBA is because, kind of like I alluded to before, we're good at some things, but we really don't understand some other things. And I think, while listing on Amazon or while listing on eBay is a relatively straightforward process, I think it's, someone has to kind of understand how, for FBA, they need to understand how FBA works. But for the other components of just listing it on those marketplaces, you just kind of have to work backwards on kind of their fees and then what would you price the product at. It really just hasn't been a huge focus for us over the last year or so because we've been focusing on other things, but two, I think more importantly, it's just something we haven't gotten time to understand or taken time to understand. And I think it would absolutely be a really great growth opportunity for someone who's kind of willing to, go in there who already either understands it or is willing to take a day or so to understand those marketplaces and list on there because there's a huge demand for these products on those marketplaces as well.
It's definitely understandable. You can only do so much in the time you have, right? Sounds like you've been doing quite a lot of work here and doing some pretty cool stuff here. Before we move into the traffic earnings, I was just curious, are your products being sourced from like an American factory or is it overseas, like say in China? And if in China, are you mainly shipping them by boat or is it mainly air freight?
Yeah, so actually all of our products, like all of our suppliers are all US based. And so that's why we're able to get shipments twice a week on those. Some of them we get once a week. But yeah, I'm sure they source some of their products from China and from abroad. But our suppliers, the ones we deal with, they're all within the US.
Very cool. It definitely helps with the logistic sides of things for sure. Moving into a bit of the traffic here, where is your traffic coming from? Are you finding the majority of your customers are coming from like organic Google search? Are you guys doing some kind of paid campaign? What are you guys doing there?
Yeah, basically, I think we have a pretty good split in terms of where our traffic comes from. We probably have about over the last year or so, and I remember this number because I was looking at it just yesterday, but I think we have about like 57% organic traffic. And then we have a decent amount of just referral, direct, email and social media traffic. And in terms of paid traffic, looking both at the P&L and just probably at the website's traffic links, we did do paid traffic a couple of months ago for a while, but it just comes back to the fact that we didn't understand what we were doing with pay-per-click. And so that's why, like, if you look at the P&L, you see on February and March, there's no paid traffic budget because we stopped our Bing campaigns. And the reason for that was because we had a very generic keyword campaign campaign that that wasn't converting well for us. And so because we just didn't understand what we were doing with it. But in terms of just overall traffic, most of that, a big portion of that comes from organic, but it's also well distributed through other mediums. And, because the site has been around for so long, and all three sites really have been around for so long, they're pretty well established. And so, just over time, because over the past couple of months, we've seen ourselves do a lot better for some pretty great keywords. We got to the first page for a lot of really awesome keywords, albeit the bottom of the first page, but the first page nonetheless.
Let's start.
Exactly. Just because the business has been around for a long time. And I'm sure you guys are familiar with this too. We did a little bit of content a couple of months ago, probably for like 2-3 weeks, but that is a huge area of focus because organically the site continues to grow in ranking, but very slowly. But if someone was to actually put SEO efforts behind that and start adding content, even, semi-regularly, and start doing some backlinking, that would most likely do wonders for the site.
Yeah, absolutely. That's really cool, man. The site is old, so the domain, I'm assuming, is pretty aged. Speaking of the website itself, are you guys hosted on like a Shopify? Are you guys doing Magento, or is it kind of your own thing? How does that look like?
Sure, yeah. So it is 3 sites. 2 of the sites are hosted on BigCommerce, and then one of the sites is hosted on WooCommerce.
Okay, cool. So all 3 of them are WordPress-based sites then? WooCommerce, I believe, is WordPress, right?
Yeah, WooCommerce is WordPress, but BigCommerce isn't. So it's its own. It's kind of like Shopify.
Okay, cool. Is the main one the WooCommerce one?
Yeah, exactly.
And when it comes down to your earning type, do you find that, first of all, how many SKUs do you have? Do you know offhand how many different products are available in your store?
Yeah, I do. We've been dealing with that. At one point we dealt with that quite a lot.
I'm sure you're quite familiar with those SKUs.
Yeah. So on the main site, we have on the other 2 we have like less than 1,000 SKUs on each site, but on the main site we have about 18,000 SKUs. I know that sounds a little daunting at first, but at the end of the day, as long as they're properly managed, it only works to our benefit. But out of those 18,000, or nearly 19,000, about 13,000 are in stock, so they're available. It's just 18,000 have historically been added, but 13,000 right now are available to customers. And I can assure you the remaining 5,000 are properly marked as out of stock.
That's awesome, man. That sounds like a great range of products there. Do you find that a certain type of product is the main earner, or do you find that across all your different SKUs, it's pretty even in terms of what they all earn?
Yeah, so we have a variety of different products that just sell really well, and just overall in quantity they do really well. We have other products that don't sell as often, but they're a lot higher in terms of earners, and so that the overall earnings on those products are higher. But I think it's pretty well distributed. There's obviously the kind of the winners of the SKUs that do a lot better than the other SKUs, and we've kind of accommodated that in terms of like what we put on our homepage to kind of help those conversions. So there's definitely like a subset that does a lot better than the others. But once again, because we only carry a particular subset of those SKUs, we can add more SKUs as long as they're properly managed in terms of inventory, and they can really only serve to our benefit there.
Do you find that there's any kind of seasonality with these products, or do you find that your monthly earnings is pretty much the same throughout the year?
Yeah, I don't think it's a really seasonal product, but obviously, just like with almost any other e-commerce site, we do a lot better in December, so closer to Christmas time. Sometimes we'll see a small increase during like Renaissance festivals and stuff, but those are typically don't do a ton to make a difference. But, I would say overall, especially compared to other businesses I've owned within e-commerce, this business is actually fairly stable in terms of earnings just throughout the year. But, December and early January are usually a pretty big time just for regular reasons of gifting products and Christmas and the holidays.
You mentioned earlier that you were adding content to the site. Are you still adding content to the site? Do you have a content plan already written out, or where were you going with that?
Yeah, no, I feel a little guilty, but no, we actually, a couple of months ago, we added a couple of pieces of content to the main site. We haven't done adding any content since then. I do think that's could definitely help with the site, but I think one that helps kind of establish the premise that, the business will continue to do well and operate as it is now without having to add content or without having to do any crazy social media campaigns. But there's a lot of opportunity there. If someone's looking to purchase this business just to continue to operate it as it is, then that's totally fine. They can do that and they don't have to kind of go the extra mile. But if someone was willing and, wanted to go that extra mile, there's absolutely a lot of runway there for them to go.
Now, you also have a pretty big email list. Are you doing any kind of active email marketing? What are you doing with that list currently?
Yeah, so our email list is, around 24,000 subscribers over the three sites. And so what we'll do with that is, twice a month, we'll send out kind of a promotional email that says, hey, check out some of these new products of ours. But that's really mostly it that we do with that email list. And a lot of those are actually past customers that have bought from us. And so, it's a fairly strong email list and, we get a good response from there. What I would recommend though is, and I'm sure you know this, we kind of send out a mass email to every single one of our customers who are opted in during checkout or people who subscribe to our newsletter. But I think the way to improve upon that would not necessarily to send more frequently, but more so to target those customers. And I'm sure you've heard of software like Klaviyo, where you can actually segment your customers off. So you can actually send an email to customers who haven't bought in the past 6 months or who've bought 3 times in the past 6 months and stuff like that. So that's kind of the approach. I would take the existing email list and that platform and make it even more effective.
Okay, so just to be clear, you haven't started doing that yet. You're still mainly just doing the 2 email promotions a month?
Exactly. Yeah. And I know that it's an idea out there. So, I mean, but yeah, we haven't started doing that yet.
As a good size of list to do something like that with, for sure. Moving into some opportunities, let's pretend here that you hypothetically wanted to keep the business and you wanted to keep growing it. What would be one of the least risky paths you'd focus on to grow this business?
Yeah, I think one of the main things we would do is we would continue to add new SKUs. And the reason for that is because this is a hobbyist slash collector's market, not entirely, but a lot of our customers are. And what they're really looking for is kind of the next cool thing that's important to them. And we've talked to a lot of, industry experts within this industry, and they've said that adding new products definitely helps not only bring more customers in and help convert more people into sales, but also, people within the customers and prospective buyers within the industry kind of tend to appreciate the business more because, there's always something kind of new to look at or something new to buy. So that would really be the least riskiest way to go about it. And, obviously there's a lot of other things that can be done, but that's kind of one of the things that stand out as something that could convert really well, but it wouldn't be risky at all to do.
Now, on the flip side here, let's say you wanted to grow the business as quickly as humanly possible, just threw caution to the wind. What would you do in that case if you're just incredibly risky and wanted to grow it?
Absolutely. So what I'm saying is I would, one thing I would focus on is I would actually, just in terms of increasing net profit, and once again, this would be a really risky thing to do, but kind of like you said, it would just throwing caution to the wind. I would bump up the prices. I think there's room there and people are still willing to pay, and that would help the net profit. Now, once again, that's actually a really risky thing to do, but there is room there. But then the main thing I would do is just kind of put in a system in place that would allow us to process, hundreds, if not thousands of new SKUs at a time. And the reason that's risky is because we're kind of just relying on a piece of software to bulk upload all of our products for us, which, doesn't seem all that bad, but hopefully that still stays within the realm of inventory management and just adding hundreds of SKUs at a time that you're kind of just bulk adding from a vendor's list is not necessarily always a great idea, but doing that, and if someone could do that effectively, I mean, that would really do wonders for the site.
Well, I bet all those new product listings from the content standpoint, but yeah, I could definitely see the worry with the software side. Definitely an interesting idea. When it comes to risk, speaking of risk, what do you think the biggest risk is for a business like this that buyers should be aware of?
Yeah, some of the biggest risks, I'd like to say that we took care of them when we bought the business over the past year, just in terms of setting customer expectations, making sure we get back to customers on time, making sure inventory is managed properly, the SKUs on the site are managed properly. But I think one of the biggest risks I would say is to not neglect customer support. And that's something, we haven't necessarily neglected customer support, but we've seen that at times if it ever that did happen for one reason or the other, it really didn't turn out well for us. I think the biggest risk would be just making sure that customer support is tended to. And I think we've done a phenomenal job of that over the past couple of months with our customer support employee. And she's just been fantastic in making sure our customers are tended to. They are gotten, they receive responses on time, they receive their phone calls back. And I would say definitely make sure that is, whether it's continuing with the employee we have now or putting yourself or your own team in place, ensuring that customer support is not neglected.
This is very good advice there. Customer support, extremely critical. When it comes to maintaining this business, what are you currently doing right now? Like, what does your day look like on a weekly or monthly basis?
Yeah, so like I said, most of the daily operations are, fortunately, they are taken care of from within our two employees, and both in terms of fulfillment and customer support. I think on a weekly basis, I'll spend about 15 to 25 minutes with the weekly inventory processing in terms of like just making sure all the SKUs on the site. But we already have a process in place for that. And, we have SOPs, standard operating procedures created for that. That's something I do on a weekly basis. And then more infrequently now than ever, I'll sometimes have an email that our customer support employee will forward over to me because she needs my help in answering. So maybe once every like 2 days, I'll have an email to answer. But other than that, if there's a small like technical thing on the site that, hey, I might want to integrate this new plugin to the site, then I'll do that. But that's like maybe every like week, or there's not too much work, associated on my end from the site. And really, it makes me proud to say that because that was our goal from the beginning, right? Is to create this legitimately scalable business where it's not one owner serving as everything and having to wear way too many hats. And, eventually that just leads to angry customers or anything, or it just leads to inefficient processes. So
Leads to old SKUs.
exactly. That's really been my goal from the beginning. And so, it gives me great pride to say that that's exactly what we've done. And so that's why the business kind of on a weekly, on a daily basis from my end or from the owner's end doesn't take a lot of effort to run.
Is there any skills or requirements you'd suggest a buyer to have, especially if they're not familiar with the niche, before they take over a business like this?
Yeah, so in terms of niche, I wouldn't worry about it. And the reason I say that is because when we bought the business ourselves, I had absolutely no idea, what this niche was about. And I think that's true for every website I've ever bought in the past, and I think that's true for a lot of website owners. Now, the good thing is, and I think the advantage any new owner would have over what we had was that we already have, people in place. Like our customer support employee, she's gotten great over the past, year or so, just handling these customers, kind of managing their expectations, understanding the products they want. So I think that's already an available resource to them. And to the extent that they want to do it themselves, we're always here to help. But, in terms of the niche, I wouldn't necessarily say that they need, level of expertise. I would just say it would be optimal to have kind of at least some component of understanding maybe like how to grow the business or how to market the business. But I think realistically, the most important skill set would be the willingness to learn. And I know that's a little general, but that's absolutely it, because we have understood this business inside and out, and we're willing to kind of teach that to the new owner if they want to learn it, because most of it's already taken care of by the employees. But and then after that, if they just take some time to kind of learn how this can be more effectively grown through the different channels, then I think that would do wonders for it.
Definitely. And moving to some wrap up questions here, would you be willing to commit to a non compete with the new buyer?
Yeah, absolutely. So, and once again, all three sites are bundled into this business, and these are the three sites we have within this space. And so we would absolutely be willing to sign a non-compete.
And how much support would you be willing to offer the new owner?
I think on kind of what I've provided was 10 to 15 hours of Skype call support and then 90 days of Skype chat, email support. But, realistically, and in the past, whenever I've sold a business, it's really been however much support the buyer needs to kind of continue operating the business, to understand all components of the business, of course, within a reasonable time frame. And, I remember when I sold my previous site, I got a message from the buyer or the new owner a year later, and just because he wanted me to kind of help him run through a marketing strategy. And I thought that was, he would usually ping me once every 2 weeks at that point, just with a quick question, or can you get on a 10-minute phone call? And really, I'm more than happy to help. I realized that buying a new business, because I've been there too, so buying a new business can sometimes be a little scarier, or there's a few things that are unknown. And so early on, obviously, we're willing to be there every step of the way and kind of help throughout that process. But even if it's 6-7 months from now, a year from now, and there's a question that comes up, then I'm always happy to kind of be there and provide any guidance that I can.
Yeah, definitely always within reason, obviously. 10-hour Skype calls Monday through Friday. Oh man,
Exactly.
where are you? Why are you answering? You told me you'd be here.
Yeah, absolutely.
So obviously the best case scenario here for you and for Empire Flippers is someone comes in and buys for full list price. But would you at all be open to a split or earnout, say 80% upfront and then a 20% earnout, or like 80% upfront and maybe the 20% is paid after a certain training period has passed or something along those lines?
Yeah, and this is one that I've thought over quite a bit, and I think it would really depend on the earnout. Now, obviously, the optimal scenario is it's a upfront full offer, and the reason for that is because of the reason we're kind of looking to sell this business is, we want to be able to take that capital, invest it somewhere else, and even with an earnout, it makes it difficult for us to use the entire capital to go invest someplace else and kind of maximize the potential of that capital. And so the way I like to think of it is we get kind of stuck in this limbo where we don't really own the old business anymore, this business, but we can't really go and buy a new business because we don't have all the capital we need. And so, we kind of get stuck in that scenario. So, obviously the
Definitely
optimal.
a fair point. Fair point.
Exactly. Yeah. And so obviously we would really hope for it to be kind of a full offer. And I think that would make the most sense to us. But, if it was a small amount after, maybe just training or maybe after migration or whatever it may be after a short time, we would consider it. But, obviously our goal is to get that capital to go invest it someplace else. And it's hard to do that if we don't have the capital.
Definitely. Obviously, each one of those scenarios are very individualized, of course, so very much case by case basis. Before I ask you my final question here, I just want to give a quick summary again of the business for everyone out there listening in. As I mentioned at the top, this business was originally built in February 2007. It has a monthly revenue of $51,214, with expenses sitting at $29,403 for that total net profit of $21,812. That is over a 12-month average. And included with the sale is obviously the site transfer process, which would include all the domains, the logins for the sites, the software pertaining to the sites, and the inventory, as well as that large email list with over 24,000 subscribers that will also be included. So with that said, Ahmed, my final question for you, my hot seat question, if you will, is what is your best pitch in 30 seconds or less on why someone should purchase this business? No stress.
This business has been around for a long time. It's been around for over a decade now. And so well-established business in a very well-established product line that people continue to enjoy and continue to want. And, it's just every day, it's just a pleasure running the business because you get to kind of interact with a lot of people who, really enjoy the products you provide. But I think on the flip side, the business has a very sweet balance of it being a almost completely passive and portfolio business, but also the potential to make it more of a do-it-yourself, get your hands dirty business. So there's potential there for both type of buyers to come in and acquire it. And the business has been around for a pretty long time. And so that makes sure that it's a stable, well-established business, but there's always a lot of potential and room for growth.
2007 up to now, 10 years, multiple lifetimes in the internet world, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, I have to say I agree with you on your pitch. It's a very intriguing business, and I think the product is actually super cool. I fit within the demographic of your guys' target market probably with this one.
Awesome.
Yeah, I think definitely a cool business. So with that said, if you're watching this on YouTube and you want more information, the link will be below this video that would take you to the marketplace listing. If you are watching this on our actual marketplace listing and you want more information, you can become a depositor today. It's super easy. All you have to do is click the button, make a deposit, and you'll be given everything you need to review this business. So Ahmed, thank you so much for coming on, man. It was an absolute pleasure.
Hey, thanks for having me.